There's a huge story shaking up the AI world right now, and it all boils down to this one massive question. When an AI learns from pretty much all of human knowledge, who foots the bill? Well, we're about to dive into a historic settlement that's giving us the first real and very expensive answer. Check out this number, $1.5 billion. I mean, let that sink in for a second. That is the jaw-dropping price tag on the single largest copyright settlement in US history. And it's being paid by the AI company Anthropic. So naturally, seeing a number like that makes you wonder, right? Is this the new price tag for teaching an AI how to read? Is this just the cost of doing business now if you want to build a powerful AI model? Well, believe it or not, the real story here is actually way more interesting and a lot more specific than just that. Okay, so let's get right to it. The crime here wasn't the training. It was straight up theft. And see, here's the twist in this whole story. A lot of the headlines can be a little misleading. This whole case, this huge settlement, it wasn't really about some big philosophical debate over whether an AI is allowed to learn from books. Nope. The real issue was much, much simpler. We're talking about old-fashioned theft. So the whole thing's centered on what are called shadow libraries. And if you haven't heard of them, they're basically these huge, unauthorized online collections of pirated books. We're talking places like Library Genesis or LibGen. They have millions of books, and the lawsuit claimed that Anthropic just went to these sites and downloaded over 7 million of them to train its AI Claude, all without asking for permission and obviously without paying a dime. Okay, and this right here is the absolute key to understanding this whole situation. You have to split it into two different things. On one side, you have how they got the data, illegally downloading books from pirate websites. The court was super clear. That was the crime. But on the other side, you have what they did with the data, using it to teach an AI. And that part, well, that's the big debate that's still going on. This settlement, it's all about the first part, the piracy. So how can we be so sure about this distinction? Well, it's because a judge basically stepped in and drew a very clear line in the sand even before this settlement happened. Okay, so check this out. Back in June, Judge William Alsup made this really smart, nuanced ruling. He looked at the two issues we just talked about. First, stealing the books. He said, yep, that's textbook copyright infringement. End of story. But then he looked at the second issue, training the AI. And he said that if you use legally acquired books to train an AI, that could actually be considered fair use, because it's transformative. And the judge used this fantastic analogy to explain his thinking. He basically said the AI is like a person who reads a ton of books because they want to become a writer. It's not trying to just copy and replace those books. It's learning from them to, as he put it, turn a hard corner and create something different. And that idea? That's the heart of the whole transformative use argument that pretty much every AI company is banking on. So with the judge making it crystal clear that the piracy was illegal, Anthropic was staring down the barrel of a trial they really didn't want to fight. And that pressure, that's what led directly to this historic settlement. So let's break down what's actually in it. So, first up, what are we even talking about here? The settlement covers about 500,000 copyrighted works. That's the estimated number of different books and other writings that were part of this big class action lawsuit. And what does that mean for the authors and publishers? Well, if you do the math, it comes out to around $3,000 per work. Now, you might think, is that a lot? Well, for writers who often make less than $20,000 a year, getting a check for $3,000 is a pretty big deal. It's a real acknowledgement of the value of their work. So, what exactly does Anthropic have to do now? It really comes down to three main things. First, obviously, they have to pay up the $1.5 billion. Second, they have to delete all that stolen data. They have to literally destroy their copies of all the books they got from those shadow libraries. And third, and this is super important, this deal only covers what they've already done. It's not a free pass for the future. If their AI spits out something that copies someone's work, they can absolutely still get sued. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second here, because a settlement this big doesn't just impact one company. This is sending shockwaves through the entire AI industry. In fact, a lot of legal experts are calling this AI's Napster moment. Now, if you were around in the early 2000s, you remember Napster, right? It was that file-sharing service that completely upended the music industry with illegal downloads. What happened next? A ton of massive lawsuits, which eventually forced the whole industry to change. And that's how we got the legal streaming services we all use today, like Spotify. So when experts say this is AI's Napster moment, they mean we're about to see a similar massive shift. Basically, the Wild West days are over. That era where AI companies could just scrape or download pretty much any data they wanted from anywhere on the internet? Yeah, that's coming to a close. The message from this settlement is loud and clear. If you're going to use creative work to train your AI, you better have gotten that data legally. That means you either buy it, license it, or stick to stuff that's in the public domain. So let's wrap this up with the key things you need to remember. First off, stealing data to train your AI is a very, very expensive mistake to make. Second, that huge legal debate over fair use, for data you actually get legally, that's not settled at all. It's still a massive open question. Third, this whole thing puts a ton of pressure on the AI industry to start paying for the creative work it's using. And finally, and maybe most importantly, this isn't the end. This is probably just the first of many, many legal battles to come. So one of the first major battles over AI and copyright is in the books. But it really makes you wonder, who's going to win the war for the future of creativity? This case drew a line against pure piracy, but it left all the bigger, messier questions wide open. As the line between what a human creates and what a machine creates gets blurrier and blurrier, who really owns the result? And who gets to decide what creativity is worth?